Hey everyone, so I'm back again with another video. This time around I'm trying out a new idea. It's nothing all that original, and it's something that many channels resort to doing at some point or another. As you can tell by the title of this video, this is going to be a top 5 3DS games. My top 5 3DS games. 5 3DS games that I have enjoyed over the sort of course of the 3DS's lifespan. Some of these, of course, are going to be pairs of games or either series rather than just single entries. So I'm just going to count those as one each. But yeah, in this sort of series, in this first video in this series, what I'm planning on doing is just showing you guys 5 games in no particular order. 5 games that I really liked for any specific console, or 5 games within a franchise, or 5 games in whatever. And let's just see what comes of it. So, starting out with this first entry, um, I suppose before I get into the actual games, I sort of by default have to at least mention these. Pokemon games, you can't avoid them. Pokemon games for any Nintendo handheld are always go-to games for the system. For the 3DS, there are 4 main story Pokemon games. That's X and Y, and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Any of these 4 are great games. Definitely can't recommend them anymore. They're Pokemon games. You should all know what these are if you're watching this video. So let's just get right past these. So to get to my actual top 5 list, and again, it's in no particular order. The first game that I want to show you guys is, Chibi Robo Zip Lash. Now, this game here, while there are some faults that I have with this game, such as the sort of level select mechanic, where you have to spin a wheel and land on a specific level, depending on what number you get when you spin the wheel. Even though I very much so dislike that mechanic in the game, I enjoy the game overall because there is a lot of variety to this. It's just a sort of platformer with a little bit of action and a little bit of puzzle aspects to it as well. Very, very, very light on the puzzle aspect, but still sometimes to sort of get your chord in the sort of right position, you gotta bank it off a couple of walls and stuff like that. So it is a little puzzle-like at moments, but still it's very much so just a platformer. But there is a variety to the level design in these. There are moments where you take on like a vehicle, like you are riding waves, or you're going through the air or something like that in like an airplane or a submarine or something like that. And it really sort of breaks up the game, and it doesn't seem like you're just doing the same old platforming from level to level to level. And it was very, very enjoyable. And I even like the amiibo that this game came with. If you can still find it with the amiibo, I highly recommend it. It's definitely a fun, not too challenging game. Definitely one of those games that you can pick up and go at any moment. Now the next game did require a lot of time investment, especially to sort of experience the game as a whole. The game that I'm going to be talking about next is Fantasy Life. Now, if you can assume by this game here, it's an RPG where you take on multiple lives, or pretty much just careers, and you can do stuff that involve you either crafting or gathering or fighting. And when I initially played this game, I played it as a paladin. Paladin pretty much just goes out, kills everything. but in total there are, I believe, 12 different lives that you can choose from in this, and you can swap out at any moment and play every single one of these on just the one character. Now, the way that I personally played it, I went ahead and did Paladin first, then I did some gathering, and finally some crafting lives in the end. After I had pretty much gotten all the fish, all the trees, all the different kinds of ore, and all the different materials throughout the world in this game, I decided to go ahead and try crafting as well. Now, there's a lot of variety in the gameplay, from a basic sort of action RPG to sort of quick time events for the crafting lives. And I suppose the weakest point to this is the gathering lives, because definitely fishing in this game is kind of boring. And when you're high enough level, collecting things like logs from trees and ore from rocks definitely happens very easily and pretty quickly. But there is a whole lot of content to this game, especially if you're going to play through all 12 of the sort of job classes. So definitely can't recommend this anymore. And one last thing to comment about this game is not only can you play with in-game characters on your team with you of two other characters, but you can also play cooperatively with other friends, so that's definitely a plus for this game. Next is another Nintendo title. I had to include at least one Zelda game here, and the game that I decided to choose is Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. The reason why I include this one here is because this game here is pretty much an updated Link to the Past with, how can I put it? I really enjoyed the new mechanic that they had of Link turning into this sort of painting on the wall and traveling around with that. Definitely made for a lot of interesting dungeons and a lot of interesting ways to travel around and find secret or hidden things. Especially collecting items in this game was really fun. I enjoyed that you could get all the items right away from the beginning if you wanted. And pretty much you'd have to pay either a one-time fee or a rental fee, and every time that you died, you'd pretty much have to go and buy, rent the items back again. Not going to say anything to spoil the story in this, but it was just very enjoyable, and as for a Zelda game, this was definitely top tier among all Zelda games. Now, the last two games I'm going to show you guys here are actually sets of games, first one and the sequel game to both of these. The reason why I include them is because they're pretty much the exact same experience. In the first one I'm going to show you guys here is actually, well, it's a different story from the one to the other, but the gameplay and overall experience of the game is exactly the same. As for the other one, it's pretty much the exact same game with added game modes and other stuff. So the first one here is Project Cross Zone, and of course Project Cross Zone 2, which recently came out. What can I say about these? These are tactical sort of strategy RPGs. They include characters from Capcom, Namco Bandai, Sega, and for Project Cross Zone 2, they also include some Nintendo characters through Xenoblade Chronicles and what was the other game? Fire Emblem. You get Lucina and Marth, I believe. No, Lucina and Chrom in this game here. So, what can I say about these that I haven't already said? Pretty much is that the humor in these games is definitely enjoyable if you like all these different characters that are being crossed over in this one series. Uh, Pretty much the games that are referenced throughout these two games include the Mega Man series, Dot Hack, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, Tales of Vesperia, Sakura Wars, various fighting games, uh, Devil May Cry, and a bunch of other smaller series. And even in the sequel game here, you even had the character of Segata Senshiro, I think is what his name was, who was an actual living person, not by that name, it was the name of the character he played, who was present in Sega Saturn commercials in the mid to late 90s. And I found that hilarious that he was included in this game as well. But definitely an enjoyable tactical strategy sort of RPG. I might be getting those types of games mixed up, but it is a tactical RPG, and it's very, very, very enjoyable. The only downside is that at least the second one, I haven't completely finished it yet, but the first one here, what I can say is that later on in the game, fighting enemies just gets to be ridiculous because as much as your attacks increase in damage, the HP increase on some of the enemies is just ridiculous, and no matter what you do, you have to hit them with a barrage from several different characters over and over again over the course of several turns to actually be able to defeat them. So it could take a while, you could drain a lot of your resources, but still very enjoyable overall. Now the last game, or games I should say, that I want to mention for this video, just over 12 minutes now, is the Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm series, both the original there and Theater Rhythm Curtain Call, which was the sequel to this game. Both of these are music, like rhythm-based RPGs, if you can call them that. Pretty much you have rhythm-based gameplay based off of Final Fantasy music. The first one has a decent selection of songs from, I believe, most of the main series games and a couple of the spin-off games, if I remember correctly. As for the other one here, the sequel to it, Curtain Call, it has pretty much every game, like songs from almost every game, I believe, in the Final Fantasy series. 221 songs in total, and they did add more that you could purchase later on, which kind of sucks, but it's nice that they did include more options after you do complete these. There are several degrees of difficulty for each song. I think, if I remember correctly, there were 3. There's like a super insane one that's just not for me at all. I could never really do that. But the reason why this is a sort of weird game that I did enjoy is that it's not only a rhythm-based game, but it's a rhythm-based RPG in a sense that you have different types of songs. You have field music, battle music, and then a couple other kinds as well. I think boss music or something like that. But basically, the way that it would work is that in certain songs, especially the ones where it was either field or battle, when you're playing a field song, the way that it works is that you're traveling across the field, and the better you do, the faster you move. And if you get to sort of bonus stages in the song, you travel even further. And the further that you go, the more items that you pick up, and the items you can use to upgrade your characters. Now you can choose from, in the sequel game, about 60 characters throughout the Final Fantasy series. And as you're playing, you level up the characters, they get different abilities. So basically, they do more damage to the enemies that pop up, especially when you're playing a sort of battle song. When you're playing battle music, pretty much you get a barrage of enemies that come one at a time, and every time that you land a note perfectly on time, you land an attack on the enemy, and depending on what skills and what level your characters are, they do more and more damage, and the more and more enemies that you kill, the better you do overall. So it's kind of a strange combination there of RPG and rhythm-based gameplay, but definitely very enjoyable, both Curtain Call and the original Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm. Basically, that's it. That's my top 5 3DS games, my own top 5. Uh, the thing that I would like to say, though, before I end this all, is what would you prefer to see in the future? Do you want a sort of more in-depth experience, or do you want it to be a much shorter experience overall? As I said at the beginning of this video, this is a sort of trial. It's a new idea that I'm working out, something that many channels do at some point. That is the top 5 or top 10 video. So if you enjoyed this in this format, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll produce more of them. If you want anything to be changed about this video, again, please let me know in the comment section below. So that's it. That's all I have to say. As always, leave comments in the comment section below. Anything you'd like to say, comments, questions, suggestions, ideas, anything at all, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Check out my Facebook, Twitter, and website. They're all linked in the description below, and also linked in the description below is a link to my 500 subscribers contest. Sorry about that. Almost lost my breath there. Check that out if you'd like. There, the 500 subscribers contest. And also, if you leave a comment in the comment section below, you will be entered in my weekly draw as well for another prize. Like I have mentioned previously, I will be doing also a weekly contest, so please comment and be subscribed, and you're pretty much entered for that week. Anyways, that's it. See ya.